So here we are. We're back. I honestly, this morning I was like, Euros is over. I'll think about something else. But Gareth Southgate's just resigned, and I couldn't not do a video about that. So my first reaction was just like, I felt quite sad, and I think that sadness is like couched in a sadness for him, really. I love the idea that his whole career and his whole life was built around retribution. If you think about it, it's crazy. It's actually genuinely crazy that our most famous failure for English football before he came on board as manager, and that's not a negative point, we'll come on to that in a sec, was his penalty miss in 1996. So famous that it formed the intro for our national football anthem, basically. It's Coming Home. He's in the audio for the intro of that, the commentary. And not only did he recover emotionally from that, but he then decided to dedicate his professional life so far to putting it right by becoming a manager, getting into the England managerial system in the under-21s, becoming senior manager, and nearly putting it right twice. A couple of penalties away from it being right, And not to say that, if really anything past the semi-finals getting it right, because that's when we went out with his penalty and he got that right 3 times. So, I think that story is incredible. And if we'd have won on Sunday, that would have been one of the best sporting stories of retribution I think I know of, alongside Michael Jordan coming back and winning 3 more championships, alongside Tiger Woods winning a Masters again. That's incredible. And it still is incredible. That guy came in when England were at their very, very lowest. That loss to Iceland is the lowest. I know we've had some tough times, don't get me wrong, but that is the lowest in terms of level of performance. And took us to the brink of immortality. And for that reason, I feel sad. I feel sad that he never got that story done. And maybe there's another way to get it done. Maybe he'll be football director of the FA, or I don't know, but he can still contribute to this project even more than he already has. Brings me on to my next point. Just a quick one to say, whoever comes in after Southgate, which we can come on to, if they win in the next 2 tournaments, because I think beyond that you could argue Southgate's influence will diminish over time naturally. If he wins in the next 2 tournaments, the next manager, it'll be because of what Southgate has built, not in spite of it. It'll be because of what he's built culturally, with the media and internally with the team. The PR of the team is incredible, and we take that for granted. If you just see the difference between before and after him is insane. If you look at the YouTube channel, all the social media output, the togetherness, all the messaging is as one. And that's all the way up from the under-21s through the Lionesses and the Lions. And that's all down to him and the structure that he's put in place, even before he was England manager, when he was under-21s. So I think they will win because of him. If we win in the next 2 tournaments, it'll be because of what he built. I'm not saying it's his doing, but I'm not saying it'll be his achievement, but I mean we'll be standing on his shoulders. Do I think it's the right decision? Yes, I think it's absolutely the right decision to step down. And I'm really glad that he's done it. Not because I'm like a Southgate out or whatever. If Southgate had decided to stay on, I would have not been angry about it, but I would have been scared because this tournament we've seen the potential for toxicity within the England media and camp in a way that I don't think we've seen since 2016, since Gareth took over. It's even though we've had our ups and downs, we had 4-0 loss to Hungary, we've had going out on penalties and the racism. This is the first time where I've truly felt like the atmosphere was similar to pre-Southgate for a little period during that group stage, and thankfully we scraped through. Bellingham rescued us in the round of 16, and the rest is history. But that's just to say that I think. Wait, what the fuck was I talking about? Wait, what? Literally, what the fuck was I talking about? I was saying it's the right time to step down because, yeah, if he'd have stayed on, I wouldn't have been angry, but I would have been scared because the toxicity. Wow, I literally just had a stroke. What is happening? Because the toxicity had a chance to become what it was before. Yeah. And we don't want that. And now, this job is poised as it's turned from being one of the hardest and potentially the worst jobs in football, or let's just say English football, to being one of the best. Can you imagine being approached for this job now, if you're Eddie Howe, or we'll go on to some more candidates? The squad you're looking at, Bellingham, Foden, Saka, maybe a bit of Kane left, Manu, Rice, Stones, like coming through. You got Branthwaite, Palmer, Wharton. You would look at this squad and you would look at what they've achieved: 2 finals, semi-final, unlucky to lose to France in the quarters, and you'd be like, that team's ripe for a win. Ripe for a win. In a similar way to how when Pep took over City, you could see, they were ripe for a Champions League win. It took longer than we would have expected, but he got there. When Tuchel took over Chelsea, you'd be like, that team surely can go on and win something. And they won the Champions League same year. I feel like this team, we're ready to win. And Southgate, for all the good that he has done, and that is a lot, it's clear now he didn't have everything that it took to get us to take that one last step. And I'm choosing my words carefully because I don't want to start saying that he was tactically inept and all this, because he clearly wasn't. We got to 2 finals and so on and so forth. But the way in which we got to those finals, a lot of the methods of our play, although had good intentions, and I think he genuinely did try to instill positive, progressive style of play, and like I've said before, World Cup 2022 is the best example of that. It didn't stick. When the going got tough, that progressive style of play didn't stick. So I'd say the only times really you could say we were on top with that style of play against a big team, you would say 3-2 versus Spain in Seville in 2018. You would say the 2 goals versus Germany in the second half in 2021. You would say the first half against Netherlands in this tournament. And you would say the second half against France in 2022. Senegal 3-0 2022, you could argue, because they just won the African Cup of Nations. But you can't really pick out a 90 minutes where we dominated the ball, dominated the style of the game, and imposed our style on the other team. Not a full 90 minutes in a big tie like Spain did to us in the final 2 days ago, or like Italy did to us in the final in 2021. I think they did. I'm not saying it was swashbuckling what Italy did, but they imposed their style on us for sure. It was very controlled all through Jorginho, aggressive, physical style, and we were completely beaten down by it, really. And I think the next step is to get a manager who is tactically progressive and astute in terms of the style that suits our players, and finding a style that suits those players, and finding and that starts with finding a manager that suits those players. So when Southgate came in, the style that Southgate naturally has, and that's not to say he wasn't trying to make us more progressive in the latter stages of his England managerial career, but his natural tendency is to be very solid at the back and then progress from there, putting it kindly. In 2018, that was exactly what we needed, and that really came to fruition in the Euro 2021. We didn't concede until the semi-final. We eventually started scoring goals, 2 against Germany, 4 against Ukraine. That was, and then for that to progress to World Cup 2022, free-flowing football, but couldn't get it done against the big nation. That all comes into a package of his legacy being like, wow, he took a team that was on its knees to a semi-final, Euro final, and that was the style that we needed at the time. Now, if you look towards this final, now you're thinking, we really scraped to this final, didn't we really? If Jude Bellingham doesn't score a bicycle kick in the last minute, we're not having this conversation. Well, we're having it a couple of weeks ago because he will have resigned a couple of weeks ago. I don't think our successes in this tournament are necessarily all down to Southgate like they used to be. And I think that this tournament, more than any of the tournaments, shows that we were lacking a style and an identity that I don't think Southgate was able to give us. And so we need a new manager. I saw a really great set of statistics this morning. Let me just try and find them. I'll put it on this. But I saw a really great set of statistics this morning that was about Southgate's influence in this tournament, right? And look, the players love him. It's another point. The players absolutely love him, and that's something to be said for that. And I think that needs to be consistent. We can't suddenly go back to a Capello-style appointment and lose that feeling. Let me just find these statistics. So how was your day then? Look, I'm not going to edit this out because you're just going to fucking see what life's all about right now. Here we go. Okay, I've got them. Really great statistics from this just fucking bloke on Reddit, right? I'll read it out. In this tournament, England's non-penalty XG was 0.77, only better than 4 other teams: Scotland, Georgia, Serbia, and Romania. Okay, so we're not creating enough big chances. And then England had an average of 10.9 shots per game, only better than 6 other teams. We only had an average of 3.6 shots per game on target, which is only better than 5 other teams, which means we're in the bottom 5 for XG, the bottom 6 for shots, and the bottom 7 for shots per game. Shots on target. We had the 3rd most long balls played in the entire tournament, and the bottom 6 key passes played in the entire tournament. We only won 2 games out of 7 in 90 minutes, and we were leading for only 19% of the time we were playing. We had 34.9% possession in this final, and 34.6% in the Euro 2021 final. The lowest possession stats for any Euro final since records began, right? This is, and in both those finals, we were against teams that actually, as big teams go, they sacrifice possession. Spain had less than half possession in every game they played, other than the game against Georgia. That's an incredible stat. They're not a Spain built around progression. They're not the Spain of 2012. So that's just to say that Southgate took us as far as his style and tactical ability could take us. And if anything, beyond that. The fact that those stats are true, and yet we're still in the final, screams, 1, defensively solid, thanks to Southgate, and 2, individual brilliance. So if we can get a manager that retains the defensive solidity, obviously going to retain the individual brilliance, instills a progressive attacking mentality, and keeps the squad and media harmony, that is where the win comes. So we're really only missing one piece of that puzzle, because Southgate kept the harmony too. Even during this toxicity, we ultimately kept the harmony. So we really only need the tactically progressive, attacking, astute-minded manager. So which brings me on to the final point, candidates. I would look into Lee Carsley, the under-21 manager. I don't know enough about him other than the fact that I watched the under-21s win against Spain in the final last year. So he has tournament success with England, and he has experience of tournament, and he knows the England setup, and he's probably a disciple of Southgate. I would look into that, right? Beyond that, in terms of English candidates, the clear favourite candidate, I think, for any football fan right now is Eddie Howe. Eddie Howe is the most tactically astute, progressively minded English manager by a country mile, right? What he's done at Newcastle and what he did previous to Newcastle at Bournemouth is exceptional, right? The only contender to him would be Graham Potter, but what he did at a mildly toxic Chelsea doesn't fill me with too much excitement, because England can be more than mildly toxic at times. And I don't think he could deal with that. I don't think he did the PR and the front well enough. Whereas Eddie Howe, in terms of his PR front, he's very similar style to Southgate. He's very placid, all about togetherness, protecting the team. I'm not saying Graham Potter doesn't have those values, but his execution of those values, I think, is not as good as, fucking forgotten his name, Eddie Howe. Right. Other English managers, I think, are thin on the fucking ground. You know, people have mentioned Gerrard, Lampard. I'm not feeling it. Lampard struggled when the going got tough at Everton. Gerrard struggled at Aston Villa, and Unai Emery came in and showed him how it's done. Let's be honest. I think out of those two, I probably wouldn't want either. I was going to say which one I prefer, but I probably wouldn't want either. I think then we come on to non-English managers. The candidates I've heard mentioned are Klopp. The reason why Klopp is a good option is that A, he's free. B, he said he got knackered with the week in, week out style of club football management. Did I say A or B? Or did I say one or two? I've forgotten. Anyway, C, he has a house in England. D, he has a really strong relationship with English football, the Premier League, and one of the strongest footballing clubs in England in terms of culture, Liverpool, right? And Liverpool have a troubled relationship with the England team, and he could improve that too. So Klopp is a brilliant option. Would he want to do it? No, I don't think. I think he wants to be Germany manager. And there's a chance he might be Germany manager after the World Cup, you know. I would say Nagelsmann probably won't stay on if they don't win that. So does he wait out for that? He doesn't tend to manage clubs for a short length of time, so he might wait for that. Who knows? He's probably got the money to wait. If he was an option, look, I'd probably appoint him tomorrow. Even ahead of Eddie Howe. Other non-English options, Thomas Tuchel, I've heard mentioned, also out of a job, also has a good relationship with English football, in my opinion, purely based off the fact that he came into Chelsea, won the Champions League and fucked off. And I think we kind of quite liked him for that, really. I think he's still kind of lauded at Chelsea, and I saw some reports that people want him back, you know. So I think he's a good option, but I don't think he's good at PR, and I do think he's a bullish voice that could really ruffle some feathers, and I don't know if that's what we need after a personality like Southgate. Another foreign option is Mauricio Pochettino. Again, good relationship with the Premier League. Was kind of a servant to the Premier League for a good while. You know, with what he did at Southampton and what he did at Spurs, exceptional. What he's then done at Chelsea is massively questionable. And he obviously wasn't committed to that project, but I do think he dealt with the environment better than Graham Potter did. So another one mentioned is Mourinho. I'm not having that. I mean, you couldn't, personality-wise, you couldn't get a more opposite manager to Gareth Southgate, and I think that would be one of the worst appointments. Horrendous. I mean, maybe international manager might suit Mourinho. Maybe he suits taking a team in a concentrated manner to probably a final, knowing him, and he is brilliant at tournaments. But do it with Portugal. It's not a risk that I don't think we should be taking that risk as a nation. So, long story short, if everyone was available, my hierarchy would go Klopp, Howe, Carsley, right? But I don't think Klopp is available. I don't think Howe is available. So I think it has to be Carsley, right? And it doesn't bring me great joy to say that, to be honest. But then again, I wasn't that buzzing when Gareth Southgate came in either. And here we are. Final tribute to Southgate. I think what he's done cannot be underestimated or forgotten. I actually think over time it won't be forgotten. I think it's cynical to think that it would. Over time, we've lauded Bobby Robson and Terry Venables for what they did for England. And so we should. But let's be honest, it was a final each. And in terms of Bobby Robson, it was quite a lot of failure before that. So what Gareth Southgate has done will absolutely go down in the history books and the hearts and minds of British people as an unbelievable time. And that might be shaped by how well we perform in the next two tournaments. Because if it's, quarter-final or quarter-final, semi-final or something, we might very quickly be looking back and thinking, fuck, we really did have it good. And I think that remains to be seen. I think if it was a Klopp or a Howe, we probably would perform better than that and might not have that conversation. But the conversation is there to be had. And if it was there to be, and if it were to rear its ugly head, I think we might be looking 8 years, 12 years down the line at Southgate having a second tenure. And that's not a prediction that we're probably going to be here to see come home to roost, because we might be having an apocalypse by then. But I really think that. Called it, heard it here first. But I think in the meantime, Southgate will rightly, over the course of the next 2 to 4 years, be remembered as an exceptional manager for England, for what he did for England. And if we go on to win the next tournament, I hope people credit Southgate for building the foundations to go and do that, rather than seeing it as almost like he held us back, because he didn't. We were in the final against the best team of the tournament 2 days ago, and we got beaten by the best team of the tournament because they were the best team. Full stop. He did what he could do. He did everything he could do, and I thank him for that. Now, I hope Gareth Southgate goes on to manage a club and be successful with that club. And I think he could absolutely be a very strong manager of a kind of challenging 5th to 8th placed club. So I think he'd be perfect for a Spurs, United, Brighton certainly. Villa's already sewn up with Unai Emery, but that type of level of club. The reason why I say that is because, first of all, I don't think he deserves a relegation scrapper. He's already been there with Middlesbrough, and he did well. He won the League Cup, one of the first trophies they won in, 100 years or something? But secondly, because I think he is better than that. I think he is actually better than that. And I don't think he has proven enough to be a manager of not that he would be because Pep's there, but like a City or a Arsenal, Liverpool. I don't think he's proven that through our performances, because they win. They're performance-based teams that also win. But I think he could certainly go to a struggling giant such as United, or if you could define Spurs as that, then Spurs, and revolutionise the culture and change the structure of the club and both put it in a good place moving forward, as well as maybe even win something. Certainly he's got tournament experience. So thanks, Gareth Southgate. I think you've made an absolutely blinding decision to step down now, because you don't deserve the potential toxicity that was coming your way from all angles. You know, I made YouTube videos really, really stressed out during the group stage and the Slovakia game. And like from all angles, there was criticism and toxicity that at the time was justified, but in terms of your legacy, you don't deserve. So I think you've made a great decision to step down before that reared its ugly head again, potentially in the next tournament. And I think he's left the environment he's left the team and the structure of England men's senior football in a brilliant place to go on and potentially win one of the next two tournaments. And like I said in my last video, 2028 is a home tournament. That really screams as the opportunity. So for me, it probably will be Carsley. If I could take a pick of the potential options, it would be Klopp or Howe. But I think there's some good options there. So let's see. Bye.